We have another big NBA trade deadline move, and this time it is Tyler Rozier getting sent to the Miami Heat in exchange for Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick. And on the surface, it might not seem like this is a massive deal, but I think there's a lot of different things that we can learn from this deal in terms of the plans for both Kyle Lowry, the Hornets, as well as the Heat, and some really interesting potential wrinkles with the future of this Heat roster. But first and foremost, let's talk about kind of this deal specifically, and then we'll get to kind of the ripple effect of it. So Rozier was someone that was definitely on the trade market. I put him in some videos recently talking about a move that needed to be made in Charlotte. Tyler Rozier is very good. He's been good the entire time that he's been in Charlotte. He's on a new contract now, and it was just clear that from a value perspective, Charlotte could get probably a first for him, and if they could, it would make a lot of sense for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, they're not very good this year. It also opens up some more minutes and some more opportunities for Brandon Miller this year as well, and it's just one of those situations where if you are as bad as Charlotte is, and you have a player as good as Tyler Rozier is, it makes a lot of sense to get some value and some compensation, and for them as well, it opens up some salary cap space for them with Kyle Lowry as an expiring contract and a player that is expected to be bought out, and then you get a 2027 first-round pick from Miami. Now, it's not necessarily ideal for Charlotte in terms of first-round picks because generally speaking, Miami is one of those teams that seems to always be good no matter what. So I don't think they're going to be looking at a lottery pick or anything in 2027, even with, kind of an aging core there, obviously with Jimmy Butler. They still have the foundation of a really, really good team there in Miami. So it's probably a pick in the 20s for Tyler Rozier, but a move that from a roster perspective makes a ton of sense. More interestingly to me, this is a move that we've talked about in other videos, like Miami specifically trying to go get Tyler Rozier, and I like the move. And from a value perspective, Tyler Rozier is a very good player to be getting for just a 2027 first round pick and an expiring in Lowry. Lowry has been just straight up bad offensively for the last 2 years in Miami. He's still kind of a veteran presence defensively, but they desperately needed an upgrade at this guard spot in terms of another creator alongside, Jimmy Butler and Tyler Herro. And Rozier's going to do a really good job with that. I don't exactly know how the starting and closing unit would work if Tyler Rozier is always going to be involved in that. Rozier, Jimmy Butler, Herro, maybe Jaquez and Bam Adebayo, but also Duncan Robinson has been good this year. Miami always has just a ton of, Caleb Martin, of course. They always have a ton of guys like that. So I'm not positive that Rozier is going to start and end games for them because Tyler Herro's had a good year. And there's some more kind of potential options here for Herro that we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. But this was a spot that they desperately needed to upgrade. It didn't cost them very much, and Tyler Rozier is a good player. He can score, he can facilitate, and just provides them an extra punch offensively that they didn't really have on the roster outside of someone like Tyler Herro. So a move that certainly helps them this year and doesn't prevent them from making other moves during the year as well, or over the next couple of weeks towards the trade deadline to really improve the roster. But here was my very, very first thought when I saw not only the rumors of them trying to get Tyler Rozier over the last couple of weeks, but them actually getting him today. I immediately thought, does this potentially open up some opportunities for them to move Tyler Herro for someone down the road? Because theoretically, Herro and Rozier kind of operate in the same places and kind of fulfill the same need on the roster. I just talked about how they needed to replace Kyle Lowry, and they did, but Rozier and Herro functionally are relatively similar as shooters, creators, ball screen guys, and it almost makes me wonder if they don't need both of those guys at that level, and maybe they could package Herro in exchange for maybe someone like Donovan Mitchell plus some of their other assets, and that becomes much easier when you have this sixth man kind of scorer in Tyler Rozier rather than trading away Tyler Herro and then being such a top-heavy, very starting lineup-heavy team in Miami. That was literally my first thought when I saw the deal, was that it makes sense to add Tyler Rozier, but does it possibly make Tyler Herro on the roster a little bit redundant? And is that intentional as it relates to potentially going out to get another star? Because Herro has always been at the center of any kind of rumor relating to Miami trading for a star. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that Herro is going to get moved either before the deadline or in the offseason, but it was just something to think about in terms of an addition that needed to be made to upgrade the Kyle Lowry spot, but also that potentially opens up some more opportunities for them in possible Tyler Herro trades down the road. And the last piece of this, of course, is Kyle Lowry. He's not going to stay in Charlotte. He's going to get bought out. There's a handful of teams around the league that could use a player like him, despite how much he's fallen off offensively. He is still a rotation playoff player. and someone that, could help a team like the Lakers or the Sixers or a variety of different teams that just need a veteran guard presence, presumably off the bench. But for Miami, it became very clear that that was a spot they needed to upgrade. And so moving forward for both of these teams, I'm really looking forward to more Brandon Miller minutes and opportunity in Charlotte. He has surprised me this year as a guy that I didn't have very high expectations for, based just off of, how bad he looked in summer league and things like that. He has exceeded my expectations this year, and I want to see him continue to get more and more opportunity in Charlotte and kind of develop some of that chemistry alongside LaMelo. And even though for Charlotte, it is unfortunate to trade away someone like Rozier, who again is good, got kind of a bad rep in Boston as like this shot chucker kind of guy. Terry Rozier is a very talented offensive player, and it does suck that, Charlotte had to get rid of him, but getting the future value is important for them. And then for Miami, I don't think that this is the last move that they're going to make at the deadline. It still feels like a team that has some other things that they can do, whether it be Herro or otherwise. But this just makes their roster make so much more sense, because Lowry, from an offensive standpoint, was just such an issue for them. And this is a massive upgrade at that spot. I don't think that it's an overpay by any means to trade away a protected 2027 first round pick for a player as talented as Rozier, someone you could still trade down the road with that contract as well. And then also, in combination potentially with some Tyler Herro trade opportunities down the road for Miami as well. This is something that's been rumored for a little while, something that almost came to be expected by a lot of the reports that I've been reading over the last couple of weeks. And I don't know that it is like a massive move the needle kind of move for Miami, but it was almost just something that had to happen. That was the video that the Terry Rozier thing was first mentioned in, is like, these are trades that need to happen. And one of them was Terry Rozier, and then one of the possibilities was him going to Miami. Now, the only other part of this for Charlotte would be, I would expect this to be a buyout situation with Kyle Lowry. I don't think that they're going to find a trade candidate for him, given the contracting, they could get maybe like a couple of seconds, maybe. So something else to keep an eye on there. I just kind of assume that it's still going to be a buyout situation. Charlotte can say what they want about trying to find a trade partner for him. I don't know who's trading for Kyle Lowry outside of just an expiring contract situation. So maybe this is a situation where Charlotte, sees a player around the league that they want to add to their group and they want to use the Lowry contract. But trading for Lowry as a player, even if it involves like a second round pick or two, really doesn't make a lot of sense for any of these contenders if they can just get him at a buyout, unless they're a team that really wants him and doesn't want to have to wait for the buyout and is okay giving up a couple of second round picks. Teams to keep an eye on there for Lowry, whether it be trade or buyout, would be teams like Philadelphia, teams like the Lakers, the Clippers, even. There's a handful of teams around the league that could use, a bench guard, and that's what Kyle Lowry is at this point in his career, unfortunately. Still, solid defensively, but offensively, he's just had, a ton of issues. So that's the other piece to keep in mind here. Maybe Charlotte gets a little bit of extra value in addition to the first round pick if they are able to find a trade partner for Kyle Lowry, but to me, that would be pretty surprising. But at the end of the day, bottom line is, trade that needed to happen, a trade that helps both teams, and one that I'm going to be really excited and interested to keep an eye on. Not only the Brandon Miller stuff in Charlotte, but also what this looks like with Rozier and Herro potentially playing together at times, as well as maybe the possibility of Tyler Herro getting moved. I know it'd be crazy in the middle of the year like this, but potentially in the offseason, if they really wanted to, that is a much easier thing to do, and I think much more of a possibility now post Terry Rozier trade.